All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. If you could come off mute, let me know you can hear me. Let me know we're good to go. Thumbs up if we're good to go.
You are good to go.
Awesome, awesome.
We are good to go.
We're good to go. Well, thank you for joining us today for this session. For this session in our group training. And so,
recording in progress.
For those that I have on here from different walks of life, whether you're from ministry side, marketplace side, it's all good. It's glad to have you. If you have any questions, we want to go ahead and take those questions as you have them, so I don't mind stopping in the middle of the presentation in order to answer any of those questions. And so today we want to talk about why business requires structure. Why business requires structure and the power of systems and processes. And I know for many people this may sound like a very, very boring subject. However, it is one that can really change the trajectory of your business. And I think a lot of people underestimate what can actually happen once they get systems and processes in place in their business. Most people do not even realize that you shouldn't even try or attempt to scale your business until you have systems and processes in place. A lot of us, we want to grow, we want to grind, we want to increase our revenues, but we don't realize that we can crash and burn if we don't have the things in place that are necessary. And so today I want to talk about this, talk about transforming chaos into scalable success, and how this, if you don't have it, can be the number one killer of your business. All right, we good to go? Everybody good to go? Yes, yes. All right. So I have this question. If you all can check out what I have on the screen, secret recipe. Anybody know what this is? Secret recipe. Secret recipe. I don't know about you, but the picture on the right, I care to like. I don't know. Maybe we should get a vote going on. Which one you all? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
On the right, all day long.
On the right, okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else on the
Chick-fil-A?
Okay. All right. So we have a picture of KFC and Chick-fil-A. Now, years ago, decades ago, KFC said, "Hey, we have a secret recipe." Right? We have all these different spices and ingredients, and they want to hold it close to the chest, meaning they don't want to share it with anyone, because why? That creates competition. And for most of us, we understand it's great to have a secret recipe. But the problem with a secret recipe, if it remains a secret, how far can it go? A secret recipe is great, but if it remains a secret, how far can it go? And so I want to help us understand the importance of having a secret recipe, but also the importance of sharing that recipe with specific individuals. Now, you may not share that recipe with everybody, but you definitely should share it within the organization. So for KFC, for Chick-fil-A, for any franchise that is out there, they all have secret recipes. And I want to ask you, in your business, what's your secret recipe? I have to ask you that question. What is your secret sauce? What makes coming to your business special? And so when you start thinking about that, you have to say, okay, this is my secret sauce, but I have to make sure it doesn't remain a secret in my own mind. It doesn't remain a secret in my own head, but I'm sharing it with my entire organization, so the entire organization knows the secret sauce. Are y'all with me? All right, so here's a slide. The cost of chaos versus the value of structure. The cost of chaos versus the value of structure. Without structure, we have missed deadlines, we have bottlenecks, inefficiencies, high turnover, inconsistent customer experience. It's just not the same for everybody when we don't have structure. Anybody experience that in the business, right? Maybe you had one employee dealt with a situation and the next person, they dealt with it totally different. And that's because We didn't really have the structure. We didn't have what we needed in place. Or maybe if you're like me and you like to do everything yourself, you can have bottlenecks in your business, right? So a lot of times we'll find out if we don't have the proper structure in place, we'll experience these. But with structure, we can create predictable results, scalable growth. We can increase profitability and also improve team efficiency. All right, so that's really important as well. All right, what's going on? Good to have you on, Rodney. So I think that's really something that we have to start thinking about. What areas in my business doesn't have structure? I want you to think about that. What area of my business doesn't have structure, right? And maybe you should think about writing that down. Let's take some time and write that down. What area of my business doesn't have structure currently, right? Because it's important to recognize that. If you don't recognize it, if you don't write it down, it will continue to happen. Okay, so let's go to this quote. A bad system will beat a good person every time. Edward Deming said this. A bad system will beat a good person every time. I had to reread that a couple times with Nerva because I was like, a bad system will beat a good person. I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but it's true. You can have a great person, but if you have a bad system, it'll still beat them. Because a system, even when it's bad, is able to still have some level of optimization. And you'll find out that once you are able to tweak a bad system to a good system, it'll way outperform just a good person. All right, so I just want to remind you of that. Let's go to the next quote. So let's look at the hidden costs of no systems. The hidden cost of no system. 20% of small businesses fail within the first year and 50% within 5 years. And the primary reason is the lack of financial control, poor operational efficiency, and no repeatable processes. And so what happens is we lose efficiency. So every scholar of business recognizes before you can scale, which is different from growing. Scale is where you optimize based on reducing expenses and enhancing profits. So growth is one thing, scale is another. And so I want you to understand that before you actually scale, you have to actually have repeatable processes in your business. So here's a question for you. Where is your business losing money due to a lack of structure? Where is your business losing money due to a lack of structure? So think about specifically, not just, hey, am I losing money because maybe there's no structure, but where specifically are we losing money because there's no structure, right? And most businesses have different areas within the organization. So most of us have sales, or what we call business development. We have marketing. We have operations, like how we actually get what we do done, whether it's a product or service. How we actually get it done is the operation side. We have HR. We have accounting. Like, what part of the business do you think you're losing money? Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to throw out a guess? Anybody want to throw out a guess?
I mean, it's different for every company, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, mine's is going to be in cross-selling.
Cross-selling. So sales, right? Sales, right? Yep. So I want you to start thinking about this as we identify these things. Okay, we're going to start developing a plan to address it. All right. So let's go to this. What is a system? A system is a repeatable method. All right. Sometimes it could be software. Sometimes it could be a checklist. It could be written. It could be digital. However, whatever it is, it's a repeatable what? Method. Come on, class. Type it in the chat. Repeatable method. That's all a system is. I want everybody to get that. Because sometimes we think systems and processes and we overthink it. A system is something that you can repeat. Steps taken and then the desired result. And I like Edward Deming. You all hear me quote him a lot today, but it says, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. This is so good. I'm going to say it again. If you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, and so this is what I recognize is that sometimes I ask, when I do my coaching with most of my clients, we start with mission and vision, and most times they take the longest to clear that up. And it's like, well, how can you expect your staff to know where to go when you don't? How can, right? If you're not clear on where you're going and how you're going to get there, if you're not crystal clear, like, to be somewhat clear is, you know, is good, but you got to think about it. If you're not crystal clear, right, how does that now impact everybody else? What's up, Erica? How does that now impact everyone else? So I'll put it back up again. It says, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. Ooh, it's tight, but it's right. 1 step, 2 step, 3, and then you got to go back and say, oh, no, maybe we got to do it like this. Maybe no. If there's confusion there, you don't have a clear process, and that means it's not repeatable, and that means it's not a system, and that means if you bring on staff, they're going to waste time and money. I can't get, y'all know I'm a preacher, so I can't get not one amen on the call today. Okay, anyway, let me keep going. All right, so let's talk about some best practices for system development, right? And a system is just a what? Repeatable method. So number one, we document everything. We write down the steps. Don't rely on memory. This is what I did in the business for about the first at least 10 years. I know that's a long time to go 10 years without a system. Would you agree? That's a long time. Though we beat the statistics because we should have been out of business. We beat the statistics, but that's a long time to go without a system. And it took about that long before we really started putting systems in place. We finally woke up. We finally got coaching, and somebody said, hey, you need these things in order to grow and scale. And we was wondering why we weren't growing. We was wondering why we had this glass ceiling and what was happening. It was because of that. And so, what do you mean, Michael? Write all the steps down. So if I believe we have all CEOs on the call. So if you're a CEO, it could be your responsibility, or you can delegate possibly that responsibility. But I believe this. You set the tone for your organization, right? Because you can do one or two things. You can document it yourself how you want it, or you can hire someone else to do it, or hire whoever is leading that area of the business. Yeah, they can put that document together, but they're putting their own personality on it. They're putting their own desires and preferences on it. So basically, they're creating their business inside of yours. So you have to ask yourself, is that acceptable? And sometimes you hire someone at a certain skill level where maybe they do know more than you. Maybe they're more experienced at that one thing than you. And so, yes, that may be part of what's necessary because you're leaning on their expertise. However, let me caution you. If it doesn't feel right, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change it. Why? You're the CEO. You're the business owner. You're the one that is responsible for everyone to get paid on payday. So if it doesn't suit you, change it. It's your business. And you have the, not obligation, you have the right to change it how you desire. Okay? So I encourage you, if you want to do like I did, I actually I had a person that was working for us that didn't have a full load, and so that person was able to put a lot of our documentation together, and then I reviewed it. I made sure it was like I wanted it. Okay, so you have to write all the steps down. Don't rely on memory. Here's another trick, and I've shared this before in previous coaching calls, is that you can use software to document everything. So you can use any kind of recording device. There's so many recording softwares out there. You can use a video software. I prefer Loom, Loom, to document because it will transcribe what I say. It will also screen record whatever I put on the screen. So let's say, for instance, I'm doing a procedure on a software system. I can screen record myself doing whatever procedure there is. Let's say I'm creating an invoice. Let's say I'm doing an estimate or a takeoff. I can screen record everything I'm doing, and I can talk, come back and talk over it, transcribe over it. I can allow it to record me and just transcribe it as a document itself. Then with AI today, y'all, you can do so much. I can actually, are y'all still there? Everybody still there? I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Yes, yes.
You can actually take your transcription of that recording that you did and just take that transcription and place it in the AI and have it reformatted however you want. You can put in the prompt, chat GPT, whatever. Please write a standard operating procedure for this type of business. Insert your business name. So in Minerva's case, for a commercial insurance company, right? Whatever, you add whatever adjectives you want. You can put in the prompt, write a standard operating procedure using this transcript from this video. And it will organize it, and now you have a nicely organized written document that if you want it in writing, you can have it, right? So there's just another tip. Assign ownership. So who's going to be responsible for it? Okay, so at one point in time, whether it was my marketing department, my accounting department, I actually asked everyone that was responsible, that were managers, to go in and tweak their procedures. Hey, do you see something that's wrong? Hey, do you see something that needs to be added? Why? Because if they are promoted, if they leave and go take another job somewhere, I need to have a document so I can train the next person coming in. Or if I have to replace them or whatever assistance they need, I don't want to spend time. And sometimes you spend a year training somebody. I don't want to spend another year. You just wasted all that money and time. Now you could have reduced that year to maybe a couple of weeks if you had everything documented. Then you have the learning curve for the mistakes they're going to make until they figure it out, right? Either that or you're going to hire someone that's super expensive that you have the expectation that they know how to do it already, but they may not do it how you want it done. Okay, so number 3, the best practice is system development. Automate where possible. Reduce human error and free up time. So then I want to ask this question. Where are you seeing the most human error? Human error. Oh, I just made a mistake. Where are you seeing the mistakes happen? Right? Where are you seeing people spend the most time? You want to review those areas and see, is there a way for me to automate this? Is there a way for me to digitize this, make it, put it on a system, a software where it's automatic? I'll give you an example. So in construction, our invoicing procedures can differ. Like on a large project, we may invoice a job monthly, and we have something called pay applications. And so in the past, we would normally just write all this stuff out, put it in Excel, but it was easy for somebody, we call it fat finger. So we call it a fat finger. Anybody heard of fat finger? Somebody could type the wrong number or a extra digit. So there's an extra 0, and all of a sudden they didn't catch that the math was incorrect or whatever in this Excel document. And we would have to revise the pay application. Sometimes we'll send it over thinking it's correct. It get rejected. Now our payment got delayed a week or two just because of that one error. But I noticed when I purchased a management software program, when we put those numbers in there, it added everything up. It did the math. It double checked everything against the budget. So if we did have a fat finger, we would know something's wrong, because it wouldn't allow that amount to be taken away from a certain number. So there's things you can do to kind of better automate these things. And I just want you to start asking yourself, what areas are we having the most human error? What area can we free up time? Okay. So another best practice: test and improve. Don't launch without refining. This is, and you're gonna see me explain this a little later. This is where most CEOs make the largest mistake. We launch because we want it done right now. We came and heard Michael talk about talk about having systems and processes, and we go back and say, let's work on this right now, and I want it done next week. Well, did you actually test it before you launched it? All right, and then lastly, train your team. So the best system is useless if no one's follow it. And I had a challenge with this, and I don't know about the rest of you all, but I had an older person, older than me, that was working for me. I'm 50 now, and I had an older person working for me, and we started implementing new software, new systems, and things that were going to make things great, but they didn't want to use it. I can't get used to that. That's not me. I do it the old way. I get it. I understand. But if my entire organization is like that, now we have a bigger issue, because we just now spent all that time trying to improve something, and we can't even utilize the strategy, the procedures, the system we put in place, and that makes it even worse. So we have to train the team, and sometimes training the team is not necessarily just training them how to do it. Sometimes it's training them how to adapt. Oh, okay. I can't get on with amens. I'm going to say that one more time. What's up, Nicole? So sometimes, I'm going to say it again, sometimes the training process of training the team for new systems and processes is not just training them on how to use it, but it's also training them how to adapt, how to change, how to go from, hey, I'm not accustomed to doing it that way. I've been doing it this way for 30 years. Right? So sometimes you may have to train them on how to adapt to something different. Okay? All right. So let me give you a 3-phase approach for implementation. You've got phase 1, develop and document. So you want to identify your pain points. So Minerva, you talked about in sales where there's some issues, right? What you said, cross sales, right? So you identify the pain point. Now you should map out your current workflow. How are you currently doing it? So this may look like a process map. It could look like a checklist. What is step 1, step 2, step 3? Now identify where's the pain point happening in that workflow, right? And then you want to then go from there, document the improved processes. Okay, so what are we going to do different right here to make this better, right? It may include some type of automation. It may include some type of adjustments. It may include some additional compliance measures or quality control, right? Then phase 2, you're going to do work on implementing. So you're going to train the employees on a new system. You're going to start with the maybe 1 or 2 people, say, hey, let's test this out and see how it works. You know, sometimes like internally with the stuff we do here on the consulting side, you know, I'll say, okay, babe, let's say, for instance, a QR code. This is the worst one. I always have problems with QR codes. I say, every time I think I have a QR code right, it's always wrong. And so that's just an example. I say, hey, babe, go test this out before I launch it. If I don't have her test it out before I launch it, most likely it's going to be a problem. Then now I have a bunch of my clients experiencing something that doesn't function correctly. So always start with a smaller group. Now, if you have a large group, just pick a couple people that you know can give you good, honest feedback, right? And then from there, once everybody's giving you feedback, you made some tweaks, then roll it out to the larger group. Okay, then phase 3, gather feedback, adjust based on real world use. So once your clients now are starting to use it or experience it or whatever it is, now you can make your final adjustments. Okay, so don't think just because you made that tweak after your small test group gave you feedback. No, now your clients may still have an experience and give you more feedback. Okay, so once you are able to address that, then you can finalize it. Okay, all right, any questions? Any questions? on that? Any questions on that?
I just want to say, I really, and you hand coach me, right? One on one, and it's still an area that I struggle in because there's so many systems for our business that we need to work on. So,
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of like maybe like a pilot group. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still challenged in bringing it all together.
When you say bringing it all together, meaning like the full the full
Yeah, like the
system.
full circle
Yeah.
of the process, you know what I mean? Where
Mm-hmm.
it's like I have certain areas where we've mastered and it's
Mm-hmm.
great, but
Mm-hmm.
then now when we're leading into the next one, well, it's like, okay, what we do here? You know, like we don't have a process yet.
Okay.
And it's just really trying to get that flow from one into the next that
Okay.
is
I got you.
it's challenging.
So normally I would tell people to focus first on where they're losing the most money and the most time. So that should be the priority. Always focus on where you're losing the most money and most time on first, because you got to get that. You got to stop the leak, right? If you
That's perfect.
right.
That answered everything I needed to hear.
Okay,
Got it.
you have
Got
to
it.
stop the leak. Okay, and let me just add, because I want to be comprehensive. That's the priority. Once you have patched the leak, right, then I would tell you to start from the beginning. So every business has what's called a life cycle. A life cycle. Now, I didn't prepare to teach this, but I know it. Every business has a life cycle. So where do you start and where do you finish? Most companies start at some point with getting leads. Most times it has something to do with advertising and marketing, right? Because at some point you're trying to get leads in, you're trying to bring customers in. So usually that's the starting point of your life cycle of your business. Then it goes, okay, what's the next step? Now that you have leads, now you have cultivation of those leads, now they make a purchase, and then it goes on to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, right? So, Minerva, when you mention cross sales, like where down the road is cross sales happening? So you may want to say, okay, let me fix the
Or
priority,
not happening,
or not
which is our
happening.
problem, right? So
Right,
we can address what they need,
right,
right? And we're great at that.
right.
But then it's expanding on that
Exactly,
relationship where it just kind of falls flat, and then we're
exactly,
on to the next. We're on to the next, on to the next, and
exactly.
we're never really like
Mm-hmm.
bringing that relationship full circle in all things that we can be to them because we're just worrying about got to get back to the other client
Right,
that
of
needs,
course,
the general liability and
of
never talk
course.
about the workers' comp and all of these things. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where it keeps happening for us.
Okay. So I want you to think about this life cycle, right? So as you think about the life cycle of your business, at a certain point, when you start talking about cross sales, it happens after the initial sale. It happens after some deliverable is given or provided, whatever the service is provided, right? And then from that point, then what? So you have to now say, okay, what do we need to develop to address this? What is the process for this? And then what's the step after that? Because what's happening is you're skipping a step, right? So once you insert that step and say, hey, this is part of our life cycle, we don't skip this step. Now it becomes part of your culture and DNA. So you have to create that life cycle of your business, identify each major component. Once you identify each major component, then you come to the last step, which is usually some type of customer survey, client satisfaction, something like that, where you're getting feedback on how you did, right? And then the circle starts all over again. So that's usually the life cycle of a business. Now, every business is different, some nuances, but for the most part, that's the life cycle. So identify the major parts, what's missing. Go work on that. Those people are part of my program, my mentorship, VIP and Elite. We provide this life cycle for you so you can see the entire life cycle for a construction business. Now, let me give you this quote. Most businesses fail to scale because they don't allow the time for implementation and testing. They don't allow the time for implementation and testing. So Let's talk about CEO's mistake, not allowing enough time. Problem. They expect instant results. Here's another one. This may apply to you, Minerva. They move on before systems are fully tested. Teams feel overwhelmed by constant changes. That means we're trying to do this too fast, right? We're trying to do it too fast. So here's the fix. Build buffer time for implementation. Use the 90-day rule. No major system changes without a full quarter of testing. Like, that's huge. This big boy stuff or big girl stuff. This big business, y'all. I don't care the size of your company. If you do this, you'll be doing it right. Use the 90-day rule. No major system changes without a full quarter of testing. And what I noticed, some organizations, we try to throw everything at the wall and then we want to change everything. That's hard on an organization. That's hard on morale. When you just give everybody everything at one time and you expect them all to be the CEO. You expect them to all think like you, act like you. They don't. They have your heart. They have your passion. No. God gave you that dream. So don't throw everything at people all at one time and expect them to change and be happy about it, right? So give them time to adjust. Assign system champions to oversee rollouts. Now, I think this is huge. I think this is huge. Who's that one person that also you can delegate to be a champion over this one specific thing, whatever it is, right? So, let's say, Minerva, you're going to focus on, the cross sales. Who else can you find in the organization that can champion rolling it out, where you're not the only one that has value or weight or accountability for it? All right. Now, I like this quote. Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." Deep.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
Deep. Give me 6 hours to chop down the tree. I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So what does that mean? How does that equate to what we're talking about? Take the time.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And guess what? Sometimes it's longer upfront time. And sometimes this is where I used to get challenged. I would feel like it's taking so much longer, but I'm picking up time on the back end. You all seen that new challenge that's going viral, where you have 2 people, they have cups in a row, and one person starts by picking the cup up in front of them, and then the other person goes all the way down to the end of the row, pick up the first cup. And every time people do this challenge, they find out that the people that started by going all the way to the last cup first, they always end up winning. It's kind of the same principle, right? It may seem tougher and harder up front, and it's taking longer, but guess what? It's going to give you the residual on the back end. Okay. All right. Now, there's some good stuff right here. So let's talk about automation and delegation. Automation and delegation. So what should you automate? What should you automate? So we talked about this earlier. Anything that may be costing you time or money, or additional time or excess time or money, you want to look at. So think about invoicing, payment reminders, right? If you have to always have somebody call for an invoice, or like, automate this stuff, right? Even I like this, the next one, lead nurturing emails. Most of you all get my emails. How many of you all think I'm emailing y'all every day? Oh, no.
I'm for sure getting emails every day. But I think it's because I'm part of every child you birth.
Yes, and that's fine. However, to that point, right? And yes, I do have a 52-week email sequence that I put together when I first started my coaching program. That's the longest one. Now, I have others that may be 10, 12 emails long. I did the same thing for our church. So we started running ads for our church, and I put an email sequence together. It's about 5 emails, and I'm able to see how it's performing. But listen, we cannot always call everybody all the time. Some people don't want to pick up the phone anyway, right? I can send a text message, so I can do text message sequence. There's all types of things you can do in business, right, to engage people, to stay in front of people, right? Whether maybe you want to send out a newsletter, right? That's not a phone call. That's an automated setting. Now let me take it another step further. How about this? This is where we get into time management. Instead of every month creating a newsletter, why don't you spend one day and create newsletters for the entire year? Then set that up. I guarantee you just save time, right? And so start thinking about that, right? If you're producing content for your business, like I see my coaches do it all the time. They will spend one day recording content for like 2 months. One day. Where other people, they're like, oh, I gotta think of something. They spend hours upon hours of wasted time. You gotta set up every time. You gotta prep every time. You gotta do your hair and makeup every time. You just wasted time. So think about how you can automate things. All right. Think about how you can automate employee onboarding. This is huge. We're dealing with this at church right now. So how we want to bring in new people as people join the church, like what's the best way to bring in people and not necessarily have a lot of wasted resources. And not to say it's a waste spending time with people, but at the same time, in nonprofits, budget is everything. And so you realize, hey, if we spending more time, efforts, money, sometimes training people, then that's costing the church more than what we probably bringing in. So we have to start looking at, okay, how can we onboard in a way that we can do what we call coach one to many, okay? What to delegate. You want to delegate tasks that are repetitive but necessary. Tasks that are repetitive but necessary. Like what's absolutely needed for a person to handle. Like a person has to handle this, right? Customer service inquiries, administrative tasks. There's certain things that a person has to handle. I want you to be able to separate that. So start going through all the things that people are responsible for in every aspect of the business. Like you should be looking at business development. You should be looking at marketing. You should be looking at HR. You should be looking at accounting. You should be looking at operations, right? Supervision in the field. What can I automate? Right? What can I make easier? So I gave you an example, like Roger, if you're in the field, it's kind of like, yeah, it may be cheaper to order a 20-foot stick, but if I gotta cut this 10 times, well, did that make sense? Like start thinking about what makes the most sense, right? How can we automate it? And if I have to delegate it, let's do that. Okay. Almost done. We should be done in about 8 minutes. So
hey, Michael, sorry, really quickly. Nicole had a question.
okay, I'm not looking at the chat. So what was the question?
She says, but how are you putting that into the professional service side where we don't have real kind of tangible sales? I don't know what she does, and she probably can't speak right now.
Well, every business has sales, so I'm trying to understand what even a nonprofit has sales. Like it just maybe look different. So like at church, we don't call it sales, but if I have to bring in members, right? I have a lead that I brought in. They're not officially very similar. So if you're able to come off mute, you can ask your question a little bit better so I can understand it. All right, real world example. Let's talk about McDonald's systems thinking. So some key takeaways from McDonald's success. Every franchise follows the same operations manual. Right? So no matter where you go, they're supposed to do it the same. You got it? The system is so simple that the employees can be trained in less than a week. Wow. Now, let me pause and say this. Some of us overcomplicate stuff. Mm-hmm. 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 If it's too complicated, it's not a good process and it's not a good system, right? Simplify it. Somebody write that down. Whatever you taking notes on, write it down. Simplify it. Um, Gosh, I taught in Accelerate Central Florida, and if I find the article, I'll send it out. Um, but basically, there's an article. I can't remember if it was by Harvard Business Journal or somebody else. But in this article, it was talking about this exact thing. And there was a company that really believed in their staff and their team, and there was a vendor that was selling them chicken nuggets, okay? And the chicken nuggets came packaged in a way that it made it hard. They had a special needs employee that had a hard time with the packaging, and so it would cost time, it would cost money for this employee to open the package, put the chicken nuggets in the fryer. And though they really liked this vendor, they liked the employee more. And they said, hey, we want you to consider changing the way you package these and the quantity of what's in the package. Now, did that company change? How many of y'all think that company changed? I can't get a vote. You all quiet today. Nope, the company didn't. They didn't change.
No,
but guess what?
because that would be too cost effective for them.
Right. But the company that was buying the chicken nuggets decided to go somewhere else. So they made the decision. I'm going to rely on making this easier for my staff and not just easier for you. So now we see a shift in people doing things for their team because they value their team. Why? Because your most valuable asset in the business is your staff. That's your most valuable asset. So that company realized, hey, no, we value this person. Even though they're special needs, even though they work a little differently, they're loyal. They're good. They're a great person. We love them. So we're going to make it easy for them. So I want you to start thinking about, what can I simplify? And just because it was done this way, does it mean it has to be done this way? Is it a simpler way? So I want you to take a stab at that. Here's something else. McDonald's success. They never skip the testing phase before launching a process. So I want to ask you this question. What's one system in your business that needs this level of consistency? What level of consistency? We're talking about doing the same thing across all channels, being able to train people in less than a week, right? So if it's taking longer than a week to train them, maybe it's not simplified enough. Okay, so I want you to think about that as well. All right, so here's some of your next steps, and we're wrapping up. Identify the most inefficient process in your business. We talked about that earlier. Document each steps and look for the bottlenecks. Okay, what's holding things up from moving to the next level? In my business, a lot of times it was me. So that means I had to empower other people to make decisions. Okay, that means I had to not only empower them, but I had to support them when they made a bad decision. I wasn't yelling and hollering and acting crazy. I had to support them, say, hey, no, we just need to tweak this, do this different. Next time, let's do it this way. Here's something to think about. But if I train you right, you'll know how to make the right decisions. Okay, number 3, implement small changes and test before scaling. We talked about that. Then number 4, commit to 90 days of optimization. Okay, commit to those 90 days of testing it out. Now, here's some final thoughts, y'all, and then we'll take last Q&A. So systems and processes give freedom, not restriction. This is huge. This is huge. Systems and processes give freedom, not restriction. What do you mean by that? If it's making it harder, if this system is making it harder, it's not a good system, right? If it's causing more restrictions and not freedom, it's a problem. Okay? So, let me keep going. I don't want to carry on. Successful businesses aren't built on hustle alone. They require repeatable frameworks. Successful businesses aren't built on hustle alone. They require what? Repeatable frameworks. So start thinking about what are the things that you're going to repeat. What are those things you're going to do over and over again, right? And do you need to automate it, or does it need to be handled? It has to be handled by somebody, or can it be automated? And that may mean you may need to research softwares. You may need to research AI. May need to research these things that are out there to see, hey, is there something else out there that can automate this for me? All right. Slow down to speed up. Take the time to test, refine, and scale your systems. Okay. So, my last question, I think we got Minerva's answer already. What's one system you're committed to optimizing this quarter? What's one system you're committed to optimizing this quarter? All right. We'll take Q&A. We'll take some Q&A. Let me see if I can get to the chat. We'll take Q&A. Anybody have any questions?
Mike, I need help.
Okay.
I want to reset up a meeting with you, a one-on-one, because I had the team read this book I was telling you about, the Go for No, but I really want to implement it as like a program as part of our sales process. And I want to, I was a trainer before when I was in banking, so I just want to kind of bring back all those elements. But the guide that the book comes with is not as specific to our industry as I want it. So I'm going to need some help from you.
Like what specifically you think you need the most help with? Is it just the implementation? Is it just the documentation piece, or what?
It's the implementation. It comes with like a 21-day challenge. So that I want to be able to create like an incentive, right? But then most importantly, I was reading another book this week that talked about the buy-in, how critical that part is. And I don't think that I've done that. So I'm kind of happy that I haven't done anything with it yet, because I really want to make sure that I'm getting their input, not so much just coming at them with like, hey, this is what we're doing, step 1, step 2, and go be great. But like really getting like,
so
to chime in and help almost to give me some feedback and create it in a way that it can be received well.
I think it's a two-edged sword with that, because I've tried both approaches. There are times as a CEO you have to make the hard call, just like a parent, right? Just like a parent, at times you have to do what you feel is best for your child and for the house. And then there's times where you're like, you know what? It's not necessary that I have to make this decision, and I can allow space and room for buy-in. I can allow space and room for their input. Sometimes with the child, with my daughter, my 6-year-old, I'm like, no, we're doing it like this, because she doesn't understand the consequences, the repercussions. And watch this. Here it is. And when I try to explain it to her, she still doesn't get it. So when that happens, know this. You have to be a CEO. You have to be a parent. And you have to execute the vision. Now, for those that do have some level of comprehension, take the time, say, hey, and that's why I think in the presentation we talked about Find 1 or 2 people that can champion it. Meet with them first. Say, hey, this is something I'm thinking about. Want to get you all's feedback. And then as a pastor, what I've learned, if you're not, quote unquote, selling the vision, what are they buying into? So,
Exactly.
so sometimes you have to start with vision first. Hey, this is where we're trying to go. What are some things it's going to take for us to get there? Let them find the problem. Right? You already know it, but sometimes they need to see it too. So you're leading them to discovery. Though you've already discovered, God does us the same way. He already knows. But sometimes he'll say, I got to let you see for yourself. Let me just let you kind of feel this a little bit. And you can see, like, this is why I had you going through this. So sometimes you have to kind of lead them, say, hey, this is where we want to go. Like, what's stopping us, y'all? Like, what's stopping us? Let them discover it. And then if they can't, then you explain, well, did you know, if you look at this report, did you know that this is happening? You have any thoughts on why this is happening? So now I'm asking them questions. And if they don't know the answers, now I have to teach. And then once I teach from there, if they don't get it, they're not going to get it. And I have to be the CEO and lead. That makes sense? So I think
100%.
yeah, so I think you probably have a couple components with that piece. You know, you got the leadership piece, you got, you know, the buy-in small group piece, and maybe you start there. And then from there, if you can find one of them to help work on it, great. If not, I mean, that's a perfect opportunity to bring in somebody from what's that, career source, or bring in a intern and have them work on some of that documentation stuff. You know, I'm just tell y'all that there's so many AI tools out there now that, you know, you can just do stuff fast. So sometimes it's just not knowing how to get it done. But yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have had to spend 20 grand on getting my systems back or getting them up in order, like in 2 years. I just wouldn't have to spend that time. Not now. So, but yeah, however I can help you, please let me know. All right, anybody else? Anybody else? Dr. Felicia, you see anything in the chat? Because I can't get to it. I can't access it. Oh, there it is.
No, nothing new.
All right. All right, y'all. Well, as I normally do, let me pray over us and those that maybe watch this replay in the portal, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. Let me pray for you and your business. Father, we just say thank you for this opportunity to learn more about how to put together systems, processes for our business. Lord, I just pray, God, that you will bring more insight, more desire to our CEOs to operate at this level. This is something that every company needs, and I just pray that you give them a heart desire and also give them the knowledge of what to do. Give them the strategy on how to do it, and bring them the people that will agree to help get it done. And I just say thank you for each and every person. I ask that you bless their business, bring the finances in that they need to thrive. And I just say thank you, God, for this time that we've shared together. And we pray all these things in your son Jesus' name. Amen. All right, family. God bless you all. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.